What can you tell me about this vote that went down today behind the scenes? Whatever you know.
Rich, this was always the most likely outcome, and we've talked about this for a month or so on NFL Network. It's postseason only was the natural place to begin, in large part because the numbers are far more skewed in terms of the correlation between the coin toss winner and the game winner than they are in the regular season, where it's 50-50. And that's a function, of course, of the fact that you've got better quarterbacks who are in the playoffs. You've got some offenses that, and particularly in that Bills-Chiefs game last year, appeared unstoppable. So, as much as they talk about this is the equitable thing, we want everyone to have a fair chance, there are plenty of coaches and GMs who I've talked to in recent days who think either it's not worth making this change or go play defense or, no matter how many times you go back and forth, now the team that, the third possession, that can win it. Now that's going to be unfair. Where does it end? There's plenty of coaches who feel that way, but it's not the coaches who cast the votes. It is the owners who cast the votes. And when it boils right down to it, you are an entertainment product, as the NFL and the consumers of that product roundly would like to see the best players get an opportunity in the biggest games. And that rule accomplishes this, even though, as you mentioned, there are going to be unintended consequences. And we'll see how things play out strategically in terms of how teams approach this when the first time they've seen it is in a defining moment in their season.
So other than, I guess, the analytics departments who now get to dig into this and figure out what the best scenarios are, and they can, game it all out and run different permutations of where the ball starts and when you should get it and how you should get it and what happens now. I think, again, most teams are going to want to actually get the ball second in overtime now, and that might be the way that the coin flip, quote unquote, decides things. What are you hearing around the hotel there of how coaches and general managers think this is going to play out, what the consequences of it will be best to their intentions?
Well, one of the funny things that I heard was that you had kind of this analytics battle going on where one team would present its data that its people had put together, and then other teams would present different data based on their analytical studies of the situation. So you absolutely had some healthy back and forth here. I had a long conversation with a head coach of a team the other day who said what's going to happen, because, again, the rule where, the other rules proposal where it would be if you scored a touchdown and then got a two-point conversion and the game ends on the first possession, that was really never going to gain traction because it was viewed as too gimmicky, too far outside the fabric of the game. But this head coach said what's going to happen is many, if not all, the teams that end up with the first possession, whether they choose it or not, if they score a touchdown, are going to go for two. Because if you don't, you cede your control over that situation. In other words, you score a touchdown, you kick the extra point. Now the other team can score a touchdown, go for two, and beat you. Now, how many teams are going to do that? It's probably similar to the mindset and the approach that you would have in regular season, end-of-game type situations. But you mentioned the decision on whether or not to take the ball. Absolutely. Part of analytics, a big, almost the entire thing of analytics is you want as much information as possible to guide your decisions. So I would anticipate that many teams are going to be advised, hey, if you win the coin toss, defer in this thing. And then the team that gets the ball first is going to be facing that decision. And I would not be surprised at all if the majority of those teams go for two so that they set the agenda instead of letting the other team have control.
So then if seeking information and having it and wargaming it out and presenting the head coaches with as much of this data going into a possible new ruled overtime, and that's such a crucial aspect of this, why would owners not want this for the regular season and pilot this thing before the crucible of a winner-go-home game in front of 50 million people? Why not try it out where the first time it happens is a week 3, 1 o'clock kickoff, and we could start to see what unintended consequences are before a winner-go-home game? What's up with that?
It's a great question, and the explanation I've gotten on it is that it's about the data points, that the owners looked at this and saw that it's literally 50-50 in the regular season in terms of winning the coin flip and winning the game. And then in the postseason, I believe it's 10-2. 10 teams won the game after winning the coin flip. Only 2 teams lost. And so that's what they wanted to address first. I would certainly think that if this goes well, and I don't even know how you would define goes well, because obviously somebody's going to walk away from all these situations going, boy, that really burned us right there. if it goes well, I would anticipate that eventually it does get carried over to the regular season. But the NFL has a long history of when they make these major types of changes, they do them incrementally. They do them in small portions. To what extent, there was conversation in the room about doing it within the regular season. That was the proposal. But again, I go back to what we said a month ago when I was told the thing that's going to get the traction is the postseason only, at least to start, just because the numbers are going to show that we've got an issue here. And a large part of that's the quarterbacks in those playoff games are so good.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.